Our reality isn't physical, it's spiritual, mental, and immaterial, says a renowned physicist. This has to do with our spirituality, our philosophy of life. What happened? In 2005, Professor of Physics and Astronomy at Johns Hopkins University, Richard Conn Henry, published a paper in the journal Nature titled The Mental Universe. In it, he writes the following. Please consider supporting my Patreon account since YouTube has again demonetized me. I've been like this for 8 months now. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below. So this is what he claims. A fundamental conclusion of the new physics also acknowledges that the observer creates the reality. As observers, we are personally involved with the creation of our own reality, he says. Physicists are being forced to admit that the universe is a mental construction, quote unquote. Pioneering physicist Sir James Jeans wrote, "The stream of knowledge is heading towards a non-mechanical reality. The universe begins to look more like a great thought than like a great machine. Mind no longer appears to be an accidental intruder into the realm of matter. We ought rather hail it as the creator and governor of the realm of matter. The universe is immaterial, mental, and spiritual," he says. The underlying idea he's getting across with this statement is that in some way, shape, or form, consciousness is directly intertwined with what we perceive to be our physical material world, and that the nature of reality is made up of non-physical stuff. Now we know that this is also what Heart Math also is telling us, based on what evidence they have from their conclusions, because they're scientists, they have evidence of these things. They claim that man's mind and prayer and thought can regulate not only our body and our world around us, our physical world and our solar system, but also the whole universe. This is exactly what is the strength of prayer as well. Yes, that can happen. But let's go back to this article here. Now, the underlying idea he gets across, that consciousness is directly intertwined with what we perceive to be our physical material world, and that the nature of reality is made up of non-physical stuff, quote unquote. He goes on to emphasize how, in the modern-day scientific world, quote, there have been serious attempts to preserve a material world, but they produce no new physics and serve only to preserve an illusion, end quote. This illusion he refers to again is the idea that the makeup of our reality is strictly and fundamentally physical. Physics shy from the truth because the truth is so alien to everyday physics. A common way to evade the mental universe is to invoke decoherence, the notion that the physical environment is sufficient to create reality independent of the human mind. Nikola Tesla is often attributed with saying, "The day science begins to study non-physical phenomena, it will make more progress in 1 decade than in all the previous centuries of its existence," end quote. Many scientists, I would say the majority of scientists in the field, all feel the same way, that there is still a tremendous lack of attention paid to immaterial science in the mainstream academic world. This is odd given the fact that the highest levels of government, usually with the Department of Defense, non-physical phenomena like telepathy, clairvoyance, remote viewing, precognition, and more, are all and have been heavily studied and verified for a very long time. These phenomena are within the realm of parapsychology, which is directly intertwined with quantum physics. What convinced me was just the evidence, the accumulating evidence. As I worked in the field and I got to see more and more of the evidence, I visited the laboratories even beyond where I was working to see what they were doing, and I could see that they had really tight controls, and so I got convinced by the good science that I saw being done. And in fact, I will say, as a statistician, I've consulted in a lot of different areas of science. The methodology and the controls on these experiments are tighter than any other area of science I've worked on. This is what Dr. Jessica Utz, chair of the Department of Statistics at University of California, Irvine, and professor there since 2008, said. A paper published in Frontier of Neuroscience emphasizes, quote, "The research on parapsychology phenomena, psi for short, is being carried out in various accredited universities and research centers throughout the world by academics in different disciplines trained in the scientific method. E.g., circa 80 PhDs have been awarded in psi-related topics in the UK in recent years. This research has continued for over a century despite the taboo against investigating the topic, almost complete lack of funding, and professional and personal attacks. The Parapsychological Association has been an affiliate of the AAAS since 1969, and more than 20 Nobel Prize winners and many other eminent scientists have supported the study of psi, PSI, or even conducted research themselves. So why is there such a strong resistance? Could it simply be the implications with regard to the findings within these realms are too great? When physics changes, so do global paradigms and the perceptions of people have of our world. Some discoveries literally have the ability to shatter the way we perceive our modern-day world and perhaps change the way we live and even have us question the way we live. Cassandra Vieten, PhD and President CEO of the Institute of Noetic Sciences, an organization founded by Apollo 14's Dr. Edgar Mitchell to study consciousness and its relationship with the nature of our reality, offers a thoughtful explanation. There seems to be a deep concern that the whole field will be tarnished by studying a phenomenon that is tainted by its association with superstition, spiritualism, and magic, protecting against its possibilities sometimes seen more important than encouraging scientific exploration or protecting academic freedom, but this may be changing. Take, for example, prominent physician Lord Kelvin, who stated in the year 1900 that, quote, "There is nothing new to be discovered in physics now. All that remains is more and more precise measurement," end quote. That was not long after his statement when Einstein published his paper on special relativity. Einstein's theories challenged the accepted framework of knowledge at the time and forced the scientific community to open up to an alternative view of reality. It serves as a great example of how concepts that are taken to be absolute truth are susceptible to change. A few years ago, a group of internationally recognized scientists have come together to stress the importance of what is still commonly overlooked in the mainstream scientific community, the fact that matter, that is protons, electrons, photons, anything that has a mass, is not the only reality. We wish to understand the nature of our reality, but we can do so if we are continually examining only physical systems. What about the role of non-physical systems, such as consciousness, or their interaction with physical systems, matter, for example? Now, despite the unrivaled empirical success of quantum theory, the very suggestion that it might be literally true as a description of nature is still greeted with cynicism, incomprehension, and even anger. Just to reiterate, at the turn of the 19th century, physicists started to explore the relationship between energy and the structure of matter, and in doing so, the belief that a physical, Newtonian, material universe that was at the very heart of scientific knowing was dropped, and the realization that matter is nothing but an illusion replaced it. Scientists began to recognize that everything in the universe is made out of energy. It has been known in the scientific community for more than about 100 years. I regard matter as derivative from consciousness. We cannot get behind consciousness. Everything that we talk about, everything that we regard as existing, postulating consciousness. Max Planck, theoretical physicist who originated quantum theory, which won him the Nobel Prize of Physics in 1918, said this. Now, the quantum double slit, quote-unquote, experiment is one that has been used to examine the connection between physical matter and human consciousness. It brings up what's known as quantum uncertainty, which is defined as the ability, quote, according to the quantum mechanical laws that govern subatomic affairs, of a particle like an electron to exist in a murky state of possibility, to be anywhere, everywhere, or nowhere at all, until clicked into substantiality by a laboratory detector or an eyeball. A paper published in a peer-reviewed journal, Physics Essays, explains how this experiment has been used multiple times to explore the role of consciousness in shaping the nature of physical reality. Can you imagine now what this means? That reality exists only when we're looking at it? Can you imagine? It was published by Dr. Dean Radin, who you will see in the lecture below. He's the chief scientist in the Institute of Noetic Sciences. He produced incredible results. Human intention via mediators was able to actually collapse the quantum wave function. The mediators were the observer in the case. In fact, as Radin points out in his lecture, a 5 sigma result was able to give CERN the Nobel Prize for 2013 for finding the Higgs particle, which turned out not to be Higgs after all. In this study, they also received a 5 sigma result when testing mediators against non-mediators in collapsing the quantum wave function. This means that mental activity, the human mind, attention, intention, which are a few labels under the umbrella of consciousness, compelled physical matter to act in a certain way. This is massive theory. This is massive. It's not just theory. This is actually evidenced by scientists now. Quote, observations not only disturb what has to be measured, they produce it. We compel the electron to assume a definite position. We ourselves produce the results of their measurement, end quote. So where does physical material matter come from, and why does an invisible force like human consciousness affect it? All perceptible matter comes from a primary substance, or tenuity beyond conception, filling all space, the akasha, or luminiferous ether, which is acted upon by life-giving prana or creative force, calling into existence in never-ending cycles all things and phenomena. This is a quote from Nikola Tesla from Man's Greatest Achievement in 1907. One of many, in fact, who had been contemplating the ether and its relation to what we perceive as physical matter, material matter. In ancient times, Plato referred to ether. This is from his work Phaedo. Quote, and upon the earth are animals and men, some in middle region, others elementals, dwelling about the air as we dwell about the sea, others in islands, which the air flows around, near the continent, and in a word, the air is used by them as the water, and the sea are by us, and the ether is to them what the air is to us. End quote. And here's another interesting quotation from this ancient text. And they allowed Apollonius to ask questions, and he asked them of what they thought the cosmos was composed, but they replied, of elements. He asked, are there then 4? And Larcus said, not 4, but 5. And how can there be a 5th, said Apollonius, alongside of water and air and earth and fire? And he said, there is the ether. Even René Descartes proposed a theory that space, what we perceived as an empty space in the universe, for example, is completely filled with matter in various states. There's evidence to suggest he was executed by the church because his science entered into the realm of metaphysics. Ether has got to be, once again, established, and then there will be the meaningful understanding of physics, meaningful understanding of metaphysics, and meaningful understanding of spiritual process. This is what Paramasha Tewari said. You know, the bad thing about this hiding of the ether from us who believe we're in the modern age where we've been taught science properly is that they never talked about ether. And it's very important to know that ether exists and the electrical universe exists, because this changes so many things. For example, we could very easily and from now have free energy. Now, going on with this article again, the takeaway and why this is important. With so much evidence showing that human consciousness is directly intertwined with our physical material reality, it further suggests that our own feelings, our emotions, our perceptions, our state of consciousness is a key factor when it comes to creating and shaping our human experience. What state of being are we all operating from on a daily basis, and what impact does this have on our reality and our human experience? If we want to change the world, How important is it that we create from a place of peace and love and prayer and love for everybody? Now you can understand the entity who was the Word and love and life and resurrection told us that if we love and believe, everything is possible. Jesus Christ, of course, said that. Now, going back to the takeaway here, what kind of reality are we going to create if our thoughts and perceptions, if major global events are not really ours, but given to us from an outside source like, I don't know, mainstream media? This is what it says here in the article. How do we react to events? How are our thoughts and feelings about what happens on planet Earth even ours? Is our consciousness manipulated by other powerful people? And what kind of impact does this have on our state of being? If we want to create a new human experience, we can do it from the same level of consciousness that got us here in the first place. Can we ever really identify a God particle, quote unquote, when it's most probably that matter is birthed from an immaterial realm? This is originally created for Collective Revolutions, published here under Creative Commons on Collective Spark by Steve McCamley. This is very important, very related to what Nicholas Tesla was trying to tell us. And please leave your comments. Thank you. I hope you find this beneficial.